you cannot have, unrealistic objectives. If you are covering a research, a consultancy, and the related aspects, then only you can have objectives related to that. Similarly, whatever you want to achieve, that must be time bound, because we have a fixed period of any program, maybe 2 years, 3 years, or 4 years. So all the objectives should be time bound. Of course, lifelong learning goes on throughout the life, but then for this particular program, they have to be specific. And similarly, the learning outcomes, they specify the intended endpoint of the period of engagement. So at the end, so that means when I talk about outcomes, probably I am talking in the future tense. So at the end of the program, that is what is expected out of the students or the participants. So it is something like beginning with the end in mind. That is the difference between the objective and the outcome. So the objective of this particular your lecture or this workshop is to give you an insight into the outcome based education. That is objective. Whereas, what is the outcome? Learning outcome. We expect that at the end of this lecture, you would be able to write down the course outcomes for your courses, maybe define the objectives of your program. So that is what is expected at the end of this program or at the end of this lecture. So that's why we say that it is something like beginning with end in mind. We are starting something, but yes, at the same time we had that this is what we want to achieve. So for any program in an institute or in a university or in a college, it can be engineering, management, science, arts, or any other program. It is desirable to have objectives and outcomes at the department level also, at the program level also, and for each course in the curriculum. So if you find the curriculum booklets, you will find that many universities have now included this uh, learning based outcome system or the course outcomes in their curriculum itself. Fine. So moving ahead, let us see the broader view of about regulatory bodies, objectives and outcomes, how they are relating them to their curriculum. So in a broader view, different regulatory bodies or the accreditation agencies, they include outcome based education concept. So we all teachers must understand and must inculcate the outcome based education concept into the respective universities or the colleges. Say if I talk about AICTE, All India Education, so I hope people who are from engineering background, they know that the AICTE has already given us a model curriculum 2 years ago, and in that model curriculum, course outcomes have been included, the objectives have been included. So that is a model part, so you can develop on your own based on that. Similarly, AICTE came up with the exam reforms policy, and in that exam reforms policy, which is available on their website, it also covers the Bloom's taxonomy levels, even how do you map the course outcomes in your question paper. So this regulatory body, which covers all the technical courses, has already come up with the guidelines for the outcome based education. Similarly, University Grants Commission, UGC, has given LOCF, that is the Learning Outcome Based Curriculum Framework, for the different courses, for the different programs in the various areas, mass communication also, physics, chemistry, mathematics, law, BA program. So they have given recommendations for these various programs as a part of their learning outcome based curriculum framework. So I am going to show examples in that also, because people are from different areas, so you can have that which area you are from and how does it match. Similarly, the National Medical Commission, which is popularly known formerly as MCI, Medical Council of India, they recommend the competence based curriculum covering Bloom taxonomy, action verbs, and levels of competency. So I will show you as an example that how each course, each subject, even in the medical, even in the MBBS, they have their own, competency-based model covering various verbs of the Bloom's taxonomy and what is to be done. Is it only for the knowledge or is it only for the practical aspects? So all those details are very well given. Also, if you refer to the PCI, Pharmacy Council of India, they have also course objectives or course outcomes in their curriculum regulations that are available for the B Pharma courses and M Pharma courses. Talking about the accreditation agencies, all of us know that these are the two accreditation agencies of government. National Assessment and Accreditation Council, that is NAAC, they also cover in their criteria as formulation and outcome and attainment of the outcomes. When they are talking about the curriculum, when they are talking about these criteria, so they have also requirement that how are you formulating your curricula, keeping in view the outcomes, the program outcomes, and of course their attainments. National Board of Accreditation (NBA) has a Washington Accord, and their accreditation is outcome-based education framework for various programs. It can be a diploma program, it can be a BTech program, MTech program, MBA program. So they have given a lot of stress on this concept of course outcomes, PEOs, program outcomes, their mapping, and of course their attainment. And apart from that, UGC has already given a regulation on this. So this slide just shows you the importance in the case of NBA. So you find that course outcomes and program outcomes, they have a lot of stress in criteria 3 and even in the other some criteria. Similarly, if you talk about the guidelines of NAAC, so you will find that the 2.6 student performance and learning outcomes. So I'm showing you here about the accreditation agencies, about the UGC and AICTE. So we'll be taking up the examples when you go for the case study. You see program outcomes, program specific outcomes or course outcomes for all programs offered by the institution are stated and displayed on the website and communicated to the teachers and the students. So this is what is the requirement when you go for accreditation like NAAC accreditation. So you must have all this, and of course they must be displayed on the website and communicated to the stakeholders, and you have also to upload the COs and the mechanism of the communication. Apart from that, this is again the attainment of POs and program specific outcomes. That is also from the NAAC. Apart from that, the choice-based credit system or the CBCS also covers that all the courses must have the course outcomes. So just I wanted to convey you that how all these regulatory bodies and the accreditation agencies, they are highlighting the outcome-based education system and how that is to be covered. So we normally talk about goals and objectives as if they are synonyms. But yes, there is a good amount of difference between them. When you talk about goal, it is primarily point-oriented, whereas objective is a direction-oriented concept. When we talk about the end result, we normally say it is a goal. And yes, when we talk about educational objectives, so that is how is the direction that we are moving towards, that we are setting out to teach. There can be multiple, objectives and statements leading to a single goal. When you play a game of hockey or football, so the goal is a single, that when the ball passes through these two poles, it is called a goal. So that is what is the desired aspect, a single point, whereas objective is a multiple, there can be multiple statements, and primary it is a direction oriented. Whereas the educational outcomes, which we call as the expected outcomes, because we are talking in the future tense. So they are the statements of what a student will know or be able to do if she has or he has learned everything in the course or session. So during the course of session, maybe it's a program of 2 years or say 3 years, you see that it is not only knowledge. We also ensure that students are participating in the cultural activities, they are participating in the sports activities, some industrial visits are there, some experts are coming to deliver the lecture, and on so many things in the different programs. So that means we expect that with all these activities and the effect produced by them, the student will be able to compete well in the outside world. And these may be mapped to a specific objective or maybe a cumulative result of the objectives. So objectives on one side and outcomes on the other side. So in between, you are doing not many activities apart from teaching so as to achieve those expected educational outcomes. Okay, so this we have seen. Now let me talk a little about the Bloom's taxonomy, which is primarily the background of all these concepts. When I say Bloom's taxonomy, that means I am talking about, to start with, different educational environments. And these learning outcomes and objectives are loosely sorted into three groups or domains. Why loosely? So that I will come up. So these domains were identified by a psychologist, educational psychologist by the name of Benjamin Bloom, through which we have been talking about. So this was almost in 1960, near to that. Affective domain, psychomotor domain, and the cognitive domain. Affective domain is when we are talking the development in the areas with the emotions and the attitudes. So that those type of institutions, that type of domain. Psychomotor domain is learning physical or manual skills or performance of actions, whereas cognitive domain is that encompasses intellectual or thinking skills or gaining the knowledge. So when I talk about these domains, so that means there are different institutions in different domains. But each of these institutions is not only primarily dedicated to this, there is a overlapping. Say, for example, most of us, we are working in the cognitive domain. Our institutions, our technical institutions, our universities, or our colleges, we are mainly into the knowledge and the skill, and more about the knowledge, depending on the type of the program. Whereas when I talk about the psychomotor domain, I am probably talking about the coordination of eye-hand movement. That how to play hockey, or maybe how to run a lathe machine, or maybe how to play harmonium. So those types of areas, they come under the psychomotor domain. And as I told you, the behavioral aspects, the emotions, the attitudes, they come under the affective domain. Now, you would agree with me that all these three domains are not independent. In our institutions, in our colleges, in our universities, we are not only giving knowledge, we are also giving a part of the psychomotor domain, the skill part, and also in the outcome-based education. Now we are ensuring that students have those positive and the behavioral aspects, and vice versa. Even in other domains, these parts are being covered. Now, in all these three domains, there are different levels of learning. We do not jump up onto the highest level. So there are different levels of learning which have already been displayed in the Benjamin Bloom's book on the taxonomy of education objectives, and of course, the new levels have also come up, and these levels are arranged from the least complex level of thinking to the most complex level of thinking. So let us see in the cognitive domain. So with the basic model of Bloom's taxonomy, we have these levels of learning. Knowledge, surprisingly, is the lowest level. Comprehension, then application, then analysis, then synthesis, and finally the evaluation. When I talk about this knowledge, then I say it is just remembering of previously learned material or recall of facts. So if I remember something, or the previously recalled fact, then that is probably a knowledge. So to start with, if there is any instrument, if there is any machine, the students, they first see that and they know their name and they know their parts. That is the knowledge basically. Moving to the higher level, you have a comprehension, the ability to grasp the meaning of the knowledge, understand the meaning, translation, interpretation of instructions. Similarly, when you learn that how to apply that machine, that part in the practical aspects, then you say it is the application. It applies what was learned in the classroom into novel situations in the workplace. So that is a higher level of learning. Similarly, analysis, synthesis, and finally the highest level is the evaluation. The ability to judge the value of material ideas for a given purpose. Now, you must be thinking that how they are connected with our outcome-based education system. Now, all these levels, they are identified by different action verbs that have been recommended, but the list is not exhaustive. Say, for example, if I talk about cognitive domain, the knowledge which we just learned is the remembering of previously learned material. These are the words which indicate that, yes, this is the level 1, that is the knowledge. Define, distinguish, identify, inquire, and so on. Next level is comprehension, which can be, differentiate, discuss, explain, rearrange, summarize. Now, you will find that in all these different levels, there are some of the words are quite, which are familiar to us, since we all use these words when we are setting a question paper, or maybe a class test, or maybe final examination. So these words will primarily indicate that at what level you are working on in the question paper. And similarly, when you write down the course outcomes, these levels are defined by these words. If in a course outcome of a design subject, which is at a later higher level, so I will probably go in the analysis part also. Similarly, if it is a basic subject, then I might limit myself to the level 1 or level 2 or maybe maximum level 3. So these words are to be depicted in the course outcome also. So that we will see later on. Say, for example, it validate. Validate is one of the say words which normally we do not use in the typical curriculum. But yes, if you remember, or if you have come across, you will see that validate is normally a term which we use in research or in a PhD. So have you validated your results? So that means evaluation of a higher level. So whatever you have proposed, what model you have proposed, have you validated that in the market? So you see, these levels of learning are identified, or they are depicted through different action verbs. Fine. Now we were talking about the cognitive domain. Similarly, these are the levels of the affective domain. I am not stressing on them because we are working for the cognitive domain, but still, receiving, responding, valuing, organizing, characterizing, they are the levels in the affective domain. And psychomotor domain also action based. So when you talk about action based, in the psychomotor domain, perception, set, guided response. So these are the various levels. So perception, you see, is the lowest level. So in a play of cricket, when a fielder is at the boundary, so he or she perceives and accordingly moves the hands that where the ball is going to come. So that is exactly the perception. Moving ahead, these are the again the new Bloom's taxonomy levels, which are exactly similar to the previous ones. Remember, understand, apply, analyze, evaluate, and create. So you will find details of all of them also, or maybe you can refer to that exam reform document of AICTE also. Okay. Now, why we go for this Bloom's taxonomy? What is the purpose? To start with, there are different levels for different domains. So we encourage higher order thought in students who are building up from lower level. So starting from the lower level, we slowly move into the higher level, maybe in one of the courses or maybe in one of the, say, second year or third year. And it is also used as a teaching tool to help balance assessment and evaluative questions. So when you are assessing the students, when you're evaluating the students, when you are setting up a question paper, so you need to understand that the questions are to be asked from different levels. You will agree with me that all questions in a question paper cannot be defined, or all cannot be explained. So depending on the marks, depending on the your university requirements, you will see that there are different levels are being asked in a question paper. And with this, you also ensure that all orders of thinking are exercised in the student's learning. So it's not the student is only learning in the say the lowest domain, but yes, on the higher and the higher side also, he is going slowly and slowly. And all these are also incorporated in the course outcome that we are going to see later. Fine. So moving ahead, this whole outcome-based education system, it's not something in isolation. There has to be hierarchy. So you philosophically develop the vision statement at the institute and the department level, which probably I think all of us might have developed. Similarly, the mission statement, the objectives and the outcomes at the program level or maybe the department level, and then very important, these objectives and outcomes at the subject level, which are called as the course outcome or the learning outcomes for the course. And accordingly, you developed the PEOs, that is the program educational objectives or the program objectives. You develop the PEOs, that is the program outcomes, what is expected out of the program, or the program specific outcome, the assessment methodology, and the attainment models. So you must get a response, you must get a result that this is what I wanted my students to understand, to learn, and this is how much they have attained. So at the end of the program, for a particular batch, you can find out that how much has been attained. Of course, you have to convert some subjective aspects into the quantitative aspects, but yes, you need to measure, you need to assess that how much it has been attained. Similarly, for your programs, you need to develop learning outcome based curriculum as recommended by the UGC or the competency based model. Now, as I told you earlier also, so there are different terms which have been which are similar in this outcome based education model, but they have been used by the different regulatory bodies, and accordingly you must match your own program. That whether if you are from engineering, then you must match these aspects of PEO, PU, and PSOs as per the AICTE and the NBA. So if you are something into, say, for example, GMC, then you must follow this learning outcome based curriculum. And of course, the medical and the dental, the competency based model. Okay. So moving ahead, when you develop all these things, it is not in isolation, or everything is related. So this shows the cross level relationships. When I'm talking about the institution vision and the mission, so it is at the top level or the institute level, which probably deals with the as a internal quality assurance cell or maybe a similar body in a university or in an institute. So when I'm talking about the departmental vision, mission, or the program objectives or the program outcomes, then I am probably linking them in the cross level with the department, which can be a department advisory board, which can be your board of studies of the department, or which can be a program assessment committee, and they are to be dealt with the program coordinator. The third one, the course level, where you define the course outcomes. So they are with the respective teachers or those expert teachers which are dealing with the courses, which you normally call them as the course coordinators. Now, all these things are related at this cross levels, and of course, there is a stakeholders interaction when you develop many of these things. You cannot develop everything in isolation. You have to involve the stakeholders, which can be, of course, the prime stakeholders, your students, the teachers, the alumni, the industry or the employers, the regulatory body, or other similar government bodies. Uh, if you talk about vision and mission, vision is like a dream, a shared dream for the institution where we want and where we want to look like when we reach there. So it's like a dream. Mission dictates the efforts and the initiatives we undertake to achieve the vision. So that's why we say vision and mission are correlated and co-created through a collaborative process. They are correlated. Your mission must be taken from the vision, and they are co-created. It's not that you are creating vision today and after 3 years. No, vision and mission are created in a systematic and a collaborative process, and they are very much related to each other. You must involve and treat all stakeholders equal. That means you have to seek alignment, not the agreement. Their views when you are developing such statements or maybe such documents, they are to be taken care, and vision and mission of the department to be derived from the vision and mission of the institution. Similarly, the vision and mission of the department is to be focused on the area of the department. So a university, an institution might have a lot of departments, and they might be running many programs. So accordingly, your vision mission, the department's vision mission, it has to match, it has to come up from the institution vision mission. And normally such activities should be followed by the SWOT analysis, or which we also call as a SWOT analysis of the department, so that you are able to know that what developments have to be done and what are your areas of strength. Okay, so when you talk about objectives and outcomes, so which we also call as a program education objectives. So after vision mission, when you come to PEOs, these are the broad statements that describe the career and professional accomplishments that program is preparing graduates to achieve. And what are the POs? Program outcomes, or which we also call as the outcomes, are the statements that describe what students are expected to know by the time of graduation, or may be able to do. So the POs, they relate to the skill, knowledge, behavior that the student acquires through the program. Now this is like a bifurcation, a dissection of how do you write down the education objectives. So this is for a particular case. So you must understand that what are the objectives of a, say for example, electric engineering program. You want your students to have technical knowledge, so that is objective 1. You want your students to have technical skills. Okay, you want your students to have computer skills, communication skills, professional skills, social awareness, and lifelong learning. So you must first find out that what is the requirement, what are your objectives. You cannot get away from lifelong learning, social awareness, communication skills, professional skills, or the computer skills in almost all the programs you require them. Apart from that, what the major knowledge domain or what the major skill that you incorporate, that you have to see, and accordingly you write down the program education objectives or the PEOs. So as I was telling you, development of such documents which can be PEOs or the objectives, they follow a systematic procedure. So for example, starting with the departmental vision and mission, which probably you got from the institution vision and mission, through the department advisory committee and from the input from various stakeholders, you draft education objectives of the program, and with certain committees working over them, you check whether they are okay or not. If there is no revision required, then you finalize those POs and then get it approval from the competent authority. So likewise, some systematic procedure has to be followed. It is not that you just sit down for some time and write down POs. So some collaborative process, involvement of stakeholders, especially the teachers and the students, that has to be there when you writing down the POs. Okay. This is what we were discussing, earlier also, that in process of establishing PEOs, how inputs are required from, or how connections are required from graduate attributes, vision, mission, stakeholders input, some departmental advisory bodies giving that input for PEOs, and then you are assessing and evaluating them. Whereas the outcomes or the learning outcomes, they specify the intended endpoint of the period of engagement. So as we move ahead, we see that they are written in the future tense and should clearly indicate the nature or the level of learning required to achieve them successfully. As the objectives, they should also be achievable and accessible, and use the language, the simple language that learners and teachers and other teachers can understand very easily. And of course, they are relating to the continuing of the Bloom's taxonomy verbs. So in short, when you write down program outcomes, you must be able to answer these questions. What do you want your students to know by the time they finish your program? What do you want your students to be able to do with what they know? And what do you want students to care about? So that's a social responsibility also we're talking. But yes, in short, for any program, these are the typical dimensions. Knowledge outcomes are there, skill outcomes are there, the attitude and the value and the behavior outcomes there. So this you can talk about any program. Normally these are the typical dimensions of a program. So moving ahead, the next level is the course outcomes, which are the statements that describe what the students are expected to know and be able to do at the end of this course. So maybe at the end of the semester. So this is for a semester. And they also relate to the certain types of skills that they might have acquired, or the knowledge or the behavior that they might have acquired during the course in this particular semester. Okay. So moving ahead, all these things are interrelated, and there is always a relationship or the mapping of the vision and mission of the institution, and then from that you derive the vision and mission of the department, then the educational objectives and the outcomes, the course objectives and the outcomes, and a COPO mapping is a very popular term. Course outcomes and the program outcomes, and of course you need to relate them with the question paper also. So you when you go for those reforms, you also write down the coverage of the COs in the question paper. Okay. So here are some examples that will make the things more clear. So this is actually what we have to write down: institution or departmental or the vision mission, objectives of the department, the program objectives, the program outcomes, the course outcomes, the COPO mapping, the CO attainment, and the PO attainment. So this is what is required typically in a outcome-based education system. And for each of them, let us see a few examples, although many of you might be following these things also. So for example, this is a typical slide containing everything for an institution in which can be in computer science: vision, mission, and the program education objectives. So you see, when you talk about the objectives, you talk about the technical concepts also. You talk about the industry focus skill also, professional work ethics, social responsibility. So everything is covered in this, apart from the lifelong learning. This can be a vision statement of an institution. I will not spend much time on vision mission statements, because I'm sure all your institutions and departments are having that. So let me come directly to, yeah. Now this is one of the courses, a technical course, which is on the electromagnetic engineering. So this is how you write down the course outcomes. So at the end of the course, a student would be able to, 301.1 is the course code. Maybe it is in the third semester. So compute the spatial variations of physical quantities by using various coordinate systems. Calculate the force and electric field, apply the knowledge, relate the volume, select the suitable dielectric material. You see, each of these course outcomes is having an action verb, which has been taken from the table of the Bloom's taxonomy, so that it can be defined that at what level you have to teach or at what level the coverage has to be there. So you see, compute, calculate, apply, relate, and select. These highlighted words are the action verbs. So each course outcome for any subject must contain some similar action verbs depending on the level, and probably these the number of course outcomes, they should preferably be maybe 4 to 6 or maybe around that, not too high and not too low. And let me tell you that it is not mandatory that the number of course outcomes should be equal to the number of chapters. No, depends on what is the content that you are giving in particular chapters. Similarly, in-plant training or the internship, I have taken this particular example just to show you that not only the subject that we are teaching in class, everything which has got certain credits, there are certain course outcomes. What is expected when a student goes to a training for 2 months or maybe few weeks, he or she gets familiarized with the various technological trends, approaches, and application, demonstrate the understanding of relevant application-oriented subjects in a better perspective way. So he or she is going to recall, oh yes, this I learned in my 3rd semester. So that correlation is there. Apart from that, when a student goes to industry or maybe some other organization, they understand the scope, function, and job responsibilities. They get awareness and exposure to industrial work environment, and they also learn how to work upon industrial project in a team. So here also you see there are different action verbs: demonstrate, describe, work, or familiarized in different of this in these different course outcomes. Moving ahead, these are the program outcomes. That means for example for a BTech program, so these are given by the regulatory body, and they have to be oriented depending on what is your program or what are the special concepts or maybe special teachings or maybe strengths of your own program. Accordingly, you can write down what is known as PSOs or the program specific PSOs. So POs are common, say for example for all these programs, whereas when you go beyond POs or specific to a particular program through a program curriculum or otherwise, you call them as a PSOs. A typical example is, for example, this is for a BTech EC PSOs. So something special that you are having, maybe some software, maybe some other technical concept, which is only special to your institution, only special to your program. Okay. Moving ahead in different sphere of the examples, this can be a vision mission of a medical college, or this is the typical competency levels in a subject or in a course, in MBBS. So you see there are different competency levels. I'm sure you are able to read them. So there are different domains for each particular course outcome. There are different domains, there are different knowledge, and what are the suggestive methods. You see, lot of details have been given in this curriculum. When I say domain or the levels, then I'm talking about the domain of whether it is a knowledge domain, whether it is a skill domain, whether it is attitude domain, or whether it is a communication domain. So you see, you are defining these domains also. And level of competency, whether it is only a knowledge attribute, whether it is knows, or whether it is a higher level of knowledge, knows how, able to discuss and analyze, or it is a skill which is shows how, or even the mastery in terms of the perform. So you see, all these are covered in the curriculum. So how beautifully it is covered, you see, in front of every course outcome, these domain levels, these levels, whether it is a core course, suggestive assessment method, everything is covered in this. Those who are interested, they can go through the website of NCI, National Medical Commission, and then see all these details for that. Similarly, these are the objectives of a BDS program. So now I am coming to the objectives of a particular program, not of the institution vision mission. And accordingly, these are the course outcomes of one of the subjects that is taught in BDS. That is a preventive and community dentistry. So here also you see there are 5 course outcomes, and each course outcome is having a action verb: create a good oral health in child with positive attitude, understand, guide, deliver, share the knowledge and clinical experience. Moving ahead, these are the objectives of a MBA program. So what are the objectives of your MBA program that you are running? So this is just a reference one. So this is what you want your students to have as an outcomes based on this after a period of time, after a period of 2 years. So sound foundation to management fundamentals, opportunity for students to work as a team, to promote social awareness. So all such activities that you think of that you do in the MBA program during the course of action of say 2 years, everything should be related to these objectives in some way or the other. Similarly, these are the outcomes of a MBA program. You may add up to 2 or 3 as recommended by the regulatory body. Apply knowledge of management theories and practices to solve business problems, foster analytic and critical thinking abilities for database decision making, ability to develop value-based leadership, and so on. So you see some of the outcomes, they have been recommended by the regulatory or accreditation bodies. So normally we follow that, or you can develop on your own based on your specialization or strengths. Similarly, one of the subjects in MBA, financial and cost accounting. So these are the say course outcomes of that. Understand and interpret financial statements of companies. Demonstrate the understanding of accounting treatment of revenue recognition, valuation of inventory and depreciation, and so on. Here also you see there are action verbs: understand, interpret, demonstrate, exhibit, analyze. And within brackets are the written program outcomes. That means to which it is mapping now. So how these course outcomes are mapping with the program outcomes, that also has to be done. Moving ahead in one of the another different fields of pharmacy, pharmaceutics is one of the subjects in B Pharma. Course outcomes: upon completion of this course, a student should be able to know the history of profession of pharmacy, understand the basics of different dosage forms, and so on. I'm just giving you a feel that how these course outcomes and objectives are there in the different areas, because I understand that you all are from different fields. So for mathematics, you have these course outcomes from the linear algebra. These I have taken from that UGC LOCF. Understand the concepts of vector spaces, subspaces, bases, dimension, and the properties. Relate matrices and linear transformations. Learn properties. Realize importance of adjoint of a linear transformation and its canonical form. So here also you see all the course outcomes that we have been seeing. They are containing some action verbs, and these action verbs are from the Bloom's taxonomy, and these words will define that what is the level of learning that we are imparting to the students, and accordingly these action verbs will be covered in the question papers also. This is a typical COPO mapping, as I told you. I have shown you in the MBA program also that how these course outcomes are to be mapped with the program outcome. So you see these are the core courses in the BA or BSc mathematics, and in the first column you see the program outcomes are written, which can be knowledge, communication skill, critical thinking, analytical thinking, problem solving, and so on. The tick mark in between shows that how these are related. You can move further ahead and also write down on a scale of 1 to 3 that what is the relationship between them, that which which courses are related to the program outcome at what different level, because you find that all the cells are not filled. Why? Because all the courses might not lead to all the program outcomes, but as a whole, we want that a student should have these attainment of these outcomes at the end of the complete program. Okay. Similarly, this example is for the mass communication people, GMC people. So these are the objectives of the learning outcome curriculum based LOCF for the mass communication. What you want to you want to impart the basic knowledge of mass communication, develop learning into competent and efficient media and entertainment industry, and so on. Inculcate professional ethics, and to prepare socially responsible media academicians, researchers, professionals with global vision. So with this, I think I am able to give you, a lot of exposure into all these things. If you are more interested, then these are certain recommended in UGC, because I know many of you are there whose courses are under UGC. So you see, this is a learning outcome based curriculum framework for education. This is a this flip book is available. So many details are given here as the basic details of this whole concept. But yes, apart from that, for each of these different courses, there have been different booklets available, which are recommended by UGC. Say, for example, if I click onto chemistry, so this is a learning outcome based curriculum framework for BSc with chemistry. So you see all the details you will find, what are the objectives, different courses, electives, and I will just take up only one as a reference. Yeah, see, this is how the core courses are related to the program outcomes, as we have seen in the mathematics. And also you will find that the different courses have got, sorry, the different so each one has got various course outcomes. So at the end of the course, what a student is expected to learn along with the reference materials, right? Say advanced material chemistry. So this is the syllabus for that, and you will find that in various core courses, the course objectives or the course outcomes have also been given for your reference. Okay. So after the completion of course, the learner will be able to understand these are the learning objectives for this particular course. So likewise, any thing you can see over here. Say for example, if I move on to BA, then you find in this learning outcome based curriculum framework for Bachelor of Social Work or a Bachelor of Arts. So here again, so you just see the index starting from the vision mission. So all these inputs are given. So these are the graduate attributes. So what attributes must be there for our graduates, and these are relating to our program outcome also. Let me take up any one course just to show you. Yeah. See, this is some paper on social group work, and you see that these are the course objectives and these are the learning outcomes that are given here. So in different forms and different areas, they're already available. So you can develop and move ahead like that. Okay. I wanted to take a case so as to make you understand that how attainment is there. The time might not allow to go in details of this, but still, this is a typical course on the quality management. So this is very these are very familiar scenes with all teachers, that we have some credits, some requirements, some course contents, and as a best practice, apart from the reference book. So we now, the last 1 year, we all are very much into the online teaching. So you must give some useful web links at the end of the course, so that a student should not, just to Google search for all these things, but yes, he or she clicks on some good web links, maybe from YouTube, maybe from NPTEL, or maybe from any such useful resource, which you assure that yes, this is, if you see to it, these lectures will be helpful to you, or these uh, you know uh, the contents would be helpful to you. So for this course, based on the syllabus, we developed these course outcomes, illustrate the dimensions of quality and origin of TQM, to classify, correlate, analyze. So this is all based on the syllabus, and you are able to correlate them. This is how do you do the COPO mapping in this. So these are the different courses. So on a scale of 1 to 3, you just map them, that how these are related. So once you do this for one subject, so in taking all the subjects, say for example, this is course of MBA program or maybe engineering program. So in the first column there I have written CO. All such subjects are to be written, okay, and then they are to be mapped, that this subject M705 is mapping with these 12 POs in this way. So of course it is on a scale of say up to 3. It can be no mapping, or it can be 1, 2, or 3. And then finally I find out what is the average of the mapping of all the POs with your different courses. I'm just talking about the mapping. I'm not talking about the attainment right now. But when you want to find out the attainment, then you must see that what is the bifurcation of, say, sessional marks, continuous assessment, and university examination as per your regulations. And these are called the direct assessment methods. When you are testing the students on the basis of these exams or these tests. Whereas there is also indirect assessment method, which can be through surveys, which can be through alumni survey, or which can be through survey from the employer. So these direct and indirect assessment, the recommended value given by the one of the regulatory bodies is that direct assessment should be taken as 80% and indirect assessment should be taken as 20% when you are checking the attainment of the COs or the POs. And this is one of the typical rules, which can be any, and this is one of the just a representative benchmark, that the attainment level is 1 if 60% of the students they secure more than 60% marks. If 70% students secure more than 60% marks, attainment level is 2. And if 80% students secure marks more than 60%, attainment level is 3. Now this can be different for the end semester and the mid semester. Like I have shown here, for the end semester, the marker kept here is as a 50%, because normally students get more marks in the in-house examinations, and accordingly you can have some markers for the course and survey also. So for example, average score of 60% students is more than 3 on a scale of 5, then the attainment level is 1. If average score of 70% students is more than 3 on a scale of 5, it is 7 is 2, and so on. Once you decide these attainment levels, then you must work out in your own subject, in your own course. Say as a representation, as a case study, I have taken that there are only 10 students in a class, say for example, roll number 1 to 10. So there was one class test, there was another class test, and this is a class average of 20. So these are the marks that students have obtained. Based on my preset rule, I found that 70% of students have obtained marks more than 60%. So the attainment level is coming out to be 2 here. Similarly, based on the assignments that students have obtained marks, and I found that 90% of students have obtained marks more than 60%. So the attainment level is 3. Now this 1, 2, and 3 is from those previous slides, that reference level that we have taken. Similarly, for university examination, students have obtained different marks out of 70, and it was inferred that 70% of students have obtained marks more than 50%. So the attainment level is 2. Similarly, you do it for the indirect one. So for the direct one, where 80% credit is given, so based on this, since in university examination 70% credit is there, and why this 2? This 2 has come from here, the previous slide. University examination, the level of attainment was 2. So 70% of 2, 20% of this 2 attainment, and 10% of 3. So this comes out to be 1.4 plus 0.4 plus 0.3. So the attainment of this course, that is M705, quality management, through direct assessment is 2.1. So what is through then indirect assessment? A course and survey was taken, and it was found that the attainment level is 3 based on the feedback given by the students. So the credit here is only but 20% of this indirect assessment. So what we have to do is 20% of 3, which is coming out to be 0.6. And accordingly, now I want to find out the total attainment of my course based on direct and indirect assessment. So 80% of 2.1, which is obtained in the direct assessment, and 20% of 3, which is obtained in the indirect assessment, it is coming out to be 1.68 plus 0.6, 2.28. So on a scale of 3, the course outcome of this particular course is now 2.28. So likewise, colleagues, you have to find out the course attainment for all the courses that they are undergoing for the whole program. Maybe the number of courses are 40. And accordingly, this is what is, I am coming to the previous slide. So accordingly, this has to be done for all the courses, and this matrix has now to be filled for all the courses. And once you find out this course attainment, then in the same table you add another column. This is the second column, which is by the name of course attainment, and this is 2.28 here. So likewise you have to write down for all the courses. So different POs are there. Now you have to calculate the program attainment, that is whether whatever you were doing during this course of action of 3 years or 4 years, how much has been attained. So this shows the details of calculation under PO1, which is 2.28. What is 2.28? This is the course attainment multiplied by 2.33 divided by 3. What is 2.33? 2.33 has come from this. That means how was the compliance for the mapping between this course and this PO. So 2.28 into 2.33 divided by 3, which is 1.77. And likewise, this whole row is formed based on the course attainment and the mapping. So this, again, you have to fill the whole matrix for all the courses. So maybe there are 40 rows in this for all the subjects that students have studied during the course. And then at the end, you find the direct assessment. Similarly, you find the indirect assessment for the POs as you found in the COs. And then through some different surveys, again, you find out the average of them. So for the whole program, the program attainment table will be 80% of the direct assessment and 20% of the indirect assessment. So this is how probably you find out the attainment levels through these methods. So as a whole, this is what I give for engineering or for any other program. The suggestive booklet format, what all it should be contained. So of course you can take the reference from other bodies also. They have to be different for different programs. Fine. So this is how you go in for the outcome-based education COPO system and find out the assessment and the attainment. Fine. So thank you all. If there are any queries, I'm ready to answer them.
Thank you, sir. Now,
Good morning.
Yeah, what is the questions?
Good morning. Good morning, sir. This is Dr. Rashmita. I'm from the Department of Commerce and Management, Don Bosco University.
Okay.
Sir, I have a question. Sir, we have been working very closely in terms of COPO mapping for our department for quite some time. But there have been numerous confusions for all of us because we have been following the NBA manual for preparing the POs. And there, the guidelines which have been given is basically for the engineering branches.
Yes.
But when we are preparing for undergraduate programs like BCom, BBA, sir, what do you think? How should we go about for preparing the POs? I mean, do we need to follow the same procedures, or there can be some differences in terms of less than 12 POs as given in the NBA manual, or it depends upon the BCom program altogether. So how do we go about? We are we are getting confused, because we are also getting some inputs from various experts from various departments across various universities, saying that for undergraduate programs like BA, BCom, BSc, their POs happen to be same, but we are having a contradiction in terms of understanding that philosophy.
See, I can understand that you are following NBA guidelines, because NBA guidelines are there for quite some time now, and they are very critically examining all these things and giving the reference of POs, and based on that we also try to formulate in various other departments. So now I will suggest you, you do not stick to that number of 12, because that is for the engineering program, whereas you must refer to the LOCF, or the Learning Outcome Curriculum Framework of UGC, which they have typically given few days ago for the this your programs like JMC also, and maybe the other courses. So they have very well written in detail that what are the expected outcomes of this program, and what should be the objectives and how they are being mapped. So I think you are going to get a very good reference from all of them. So you should not target only engineering program, because yours is not an engineering program, and please understand that it is not mandatory that all the BCom programs throughout the country will have same program outcome. It depends upon your strength. You might be imparting some additional skills, some additional knowledge, or some additional software to your students, and that you can always include in your program outcomes. So it is different for different programs, and you must refer to the LOCF of the UGC for this program.
Thank you so much, sir.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Sir, may I know more about CBCS system, sir? How to introduce that into our college? I work in a pharmacy college, sir, in Andhra Pradesh. So how to just go by that, sir?
CBCS system, that is a choice-based credit system.
Yes, sir.
It was recommended by UGC in around 2015 or 16, and all universities were asked to take up the CBCS system. One of the important parts of CBCS system is that the degree is based on the number of credits.
Yes, sir. Okay.
Say for example, if I talk about a PG program, I'm just taking an example. So
Okay.
you must have, say, a student must have cleared, say, 80 or 90 credits for that. And then another important and very beautiful part of CBCS system is that choice-based credit system. That means there is a choice available to students. There are the baskets available in general elective, in open elective, or
Yes, sir.
maybe or maybe in some related areas which are not exactly of the domain. So student has to choose those subjects or
Okay.
those courses and ensure that yes, I am able to accommodate these many credits at the end of my program.
Okay.
Similarly, there are other recommendations for the CBCS system also, that you should also have those courses which are not at all related to also. Say for example, music can be one of the course, which you find that it is not related.
Yes.
Or you can have a course on the say our Indian Constitution, or maybe something on the behavioral aspects. So such choice should be given to the students, so that there is an overall development, and at the same time every course has got certain credits. So there is a I think you can refer to any good universities this CBCS system scheme, or there are some standard guidelines from UGC that you can refer to. You can find on the UGC website, or other I can provide it to you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much, sir. Sir, one more doubt, sir. What is the difference between PEOs and POs, sir? How to just demarcate them, sir?
The PEOs are the educational objectives that you decide right now, right in the front.
Okay.
And POs are the outcomes which you expect at the end of the program.
Okay. Okay. Fine, sir. Got it, sir. Thank you. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir, for very much enriching your session, and I enjoyed it, and I learned so many things. And especially, I'm a person. I'm Dr. Dibakar Maut from the Department of English, Dindal College,
Okay.
Bongaigaon. But I think all the things which were related to commerce or science, and beautifully at the end, you also encompassed the humanities. So it is a very delightful experience with you, sir. And thank you again. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Hello, sir. Good morning.
Good morning.
I am Dr. Sushan Kitina, Diploma of Mechanical Engineering, Testo University. Sir, you have shown one list for COPO mapping. And in slide number 73, you have shown by tick. But nowadays, we have seen that when we are doing this COPO mapping, that say PO is the in row and CO is column. If the PO and CO exactly match, then we will give the 3 mark. If it is not matched, then we will give 0. Then we will taking the average. But sir, what you have shown in slide number 73, tick. The tick is, I think, before 5-year concept. It is somewhat old. Am I say right? Or?
See, for the engineering program,
Yes, sir.
I have shown you that 1 to 3 marker for the engineering program.
Yes, later you have shown, sir.
And later you have seen the tick mark that was from the LOCF that I have shown you for the mathematics program. So like earlier one madam asked about that each regulatory body has given different guidelines and different examples and different references. So I have tried that since you all are from varied areas, so all those different areas are covered in this.
Okay,
of course, in engineering you must go by 1 to 3 only as
yes,
per
sir.
NBA.
Okay, thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
I think there is no more questions. At last, I want to request our director sir is present here to say a few words regarding SAR session.
Good morning, all of you. Good morning, Groverji. Groverji is a good friend of mine, and I'm very proud that my friend has done a very great job in actually imparting such a big subject, such a big concept, in fact, philosophical idea in in 1 hour time. Actually, this particular topic would be needing at least 1 full day. By this time, probably we have learned it.
Yeah, 1 full day workshop.
Yeah, and this is very important for not only for the university teachers who are attending this refresher course, but also for college teachers, because even though it is coming to the universities in a big way that you must have LOPO, you must have the other kind of things, mapping things can be there and numbering things are there. But then in college also, even if you're affiliated college with the new education policy, you will be given freedom, autonomy to start your own program, to build your or construct your, develop your own course. And in that case, you must follow all these regulatory requirements in order to get it approved by the stakeholders. So I hope that even if this particular lecture is provoking you to learn a little bit more, as I said yesterday, how many things that we didn't know and then we started to know slowly and slowly. That opens up new avenues in front of us. And I thank Professor Grover from my heart. And today is Saraswati Puja, Professor Grover, in the eastern side of India. We are actually, all of them are actually foregoing puja to listen to your beautiful talk. And then I think this is one of the kind of puja that all of us are doing, learning things in these today's of the goddess of learning. Thank you once again, Sandeep ji. And I wish that you'll be never saying no to the request. Say if we send any more requests, definitely we are going to send it request to come over again and again to TLC, Tezpur University. Thank you very much, all of you.
Thank you. It's my pleasure to interact with all of you. Thank you so much.
Yes, sir.
One announcement regarding the next session. Okay. Due to some technical difficulties, the next session was from the Department of Education University of Delhi, which was supposed to taken by Professor Poonam Batra, but maybe she will take the session in the coming days. Today she is unable to do it. We have forwarded the second half session, the pre-recorded session, and it will be released at 12 p.m. in Google Classroom. I request all of you to go through the recorded videos and please write your comments, feedback in Google Classroom. So please be connected with the classroom. The class will release at 12 p.m. Thank you for your attention and your presence in this session. Thanks to all of you.